but tomorrow they'll be held to pay.
The afterlife could be headed for the serious strife. Now to make the scene all day, but tomorrow they'll be held to pay.
People listen attentively, I mean about future calamity. I used to think the idea was obsolete until I heard the old man stamping his feet. Where eternally fire is applied to the body. Teeth are extruded and bones are ground and baked into cakes which are passed around.
The afterlife could be headed for the serious strife. Now you make the scene all day, but tomorrow they'll be held to pay.
Okay, and we are live. Hello, everybody. It is Larsen Live. It is July 29th, 2023. My wife says good morning, as is Ponythroat. Hello, hello. Somebody texted me. What is this? Let me see what this is. Might be from work. Yes, it is work. Yeah, hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? We opened up with Hell by the Squirrel Nut Zippers, which was a band that was reasonably popular during that brief period where swing music became popular again in the 1990s. The mind boggles as to why that happened, not that I was complaining. And yes, I played Hell because it is hot as balls here in New Jersey. We've had heat warnings all week, but also thunderstorm warnings. Okay? Don't know what's going on, but yes, it is very hot. Well, actually, I do know what's going on. It's almost August, and it is hot. So the title of the stream is, of course, what everybody else's stream is titled this week. I Am Become Death, the Destroyer of Barbieworlds. Because Barbenheimer is sweeping the box office. And yes, I will be partaking in it tonight. I will be doing the double feature, me and the wife. And, yeah, you shall hear about it next week. Most people were silent, though. But not everybody. Okay, C-Punk Messiah says he's playing Link to the Past, presumably on his Super Nintendo. That is a good choice, sir. Video games as a medium peaked in the mid-90s, and I will die on that hill. So yeah, we're going to talk more about the video in a little while, but now we're going to start with the news. First of all, we have some humorous gender-related news. Kind of. Okay? There was a man in Turkey. He was arrested and kept in horrific conditions in a Turkish prison for 20 days. Why? Because he, and this is a direct quote, he looked gay. A Portuguese man was arrested in Turkey, a Mr. Alvaro. Let me see that. Yes, Miguel Alvaro was on holiday in Istanbul when he went out to meet a friend for lunch. He asked the police for directions, unaware that there was a nearby gay pride parade nearby, which was unsanctioned by authorities, but probably sanctioned by the American State Department. Mr. Alvaro is gay, just FYI. He was immediately arrested and thrown into a van, and then, taken to a Turkish prison. I will not make jokes about a gay man enjoying a Turkish prison, because that is far beneath me. Anyway, yes. It was a very, very brutal prison, and he was there for 20 days before the Portuguese embassy cleared him up. Speaking on Instagram, Mr. Alvaro said he would not recommend anybody visiting Turkey, especially not gay people. It is not technically illegal to be gay in Turkey, but LGBT people face discrimination nonetheless. Now, of course, nobody should be put in prison for their sexual orientation, but I'm going to have to say the man is guilty as charged. He does look incredibly gay. Studies have shown that the gay face is real. Like, with more than 80% accuracy, you can point out when somebody is, doing the rump wrangling. And yes, this man looks incredibly gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Of course, he has every right to be incredibly gay. Okay, we got some comments here. Ponythroat says, no surprise that the music genre named swing was popular amongst the POC in the 1930s. That is a low blow, sir. Ponythroat also says, oh look, the country that invented Yagli Goresh oil wrestling and suspiciously groomed mustaches is calling somebody else gay. Not only that, but also invented a deadly martial art based upon bitch slapping. So I think Turkey might have to look itself in the mirror and, take a deep kind of look at its life choices and, come to terms with itself. But, I'm just saying, when you're walking around in a major city wearing a crop top and with your frosted tips, yes, Miguel, you look incredibly gay. Just saying. Comments here. Rick says, the BD, that's bande dessinée, the Hon French comics. Yes, anyway, there's a bande dessinée called Largo Winch. Opened up with the main character in a Turkish prison. He beat up the other prisoners. Well, that's good for him. I have never read Largo Winch. The list of bande dessinée I actually have read is pretty low. I've read the ones that are more like kind of for kids, like Asterix and Obelix and Tintin, of course. I also read Corto Maltese a little bit, which is pretty cool. Lucky Luke. But yeah, I haven't read Largo Winch. I might have to look into that. Ponythroat says Oppenheimer is about what people thought would destroy society. Barbie is about what actually did destroy society. Well said, sir. I kid, of course. C-Punk Messiah says, Turkey is like that homophobic dude who's a die-hard Judas Priest fan. Indeed. Again, it's like I've always said about the 80s, in that older gay people that I've talked to talk about how homophobic 1980s America was, and yet somehow it was also the gayest goddamn decade you could imagine. Like, it's just a bunch of dudes in little crop tops and short shorts watching He-Man, be like, "No, man, fuck them faggots." And nobody at any point looked in the mirror and asked, this is all kind of fruity, isn't it? But yes, it's the point is, it's a good thing that man got out of prison. Okay, we got some other, let's see. Yeah, some other gender-related news. This is yet another example of a certain genre of article that I like, in quotes, to talk about. A genre of article and talking point, which is basically like, men are poor, women are most affected. What do I mean? Oh, you know exactly what I mean. CNN says a new study suggests that one reason American marriage rates are at the lowest they've ever been in 150 years is because there's a shortage of economically attractive men. In other words, men are poor and women are most affected. Just when I thought I couldn't hate women enough, I dig deep and I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, yes, evidently I am economically viable enough for a lady to marry me. But, yeah. Like, it's true. A lot of men are just kind of, skating by, being bums, working little shitty jobs, and living in crap apartments, just, doing the bare minimum to get by. But again, I have to point out that, like, you can say this about men, but if you were to say, have a discussion where a bunch of, like, dude bros in a gym were like, what the problem is with women? They don't dress well and they're fat. Like, this country would grind to a screeching halt. If you were to say, like, women are not, if you were to say, like, another reason that American marriage rates are at such a low rate is because there's a shortage of physically attractive women. Just like, the country would just shut down for like a week as everybody flew into a naked hysteria. Then again, might I posit that both such things might actually be true? That a lot of men are, useless layabout stump bums, and a lot of women are, poorly dressed, masculized slobs. Yes, both those things are true. And of course, that, excludes everybody watching my stream. Of course, because we are all, absolute Chads and Stacy's here. But yes, men are poor, women most affected. Women are fat, men most affected. Yeah, I'm just laying it out there. There are no innocent parties in Larsen world. Okay. Rick says, if you can't find the Largo Winch bande dessinée, there is a show, movie, and video. I only read the comic. Yes, I will have to look into it. Ponythroat says, can I turn up the volume a bit? I can barely hear you. My wife says audio is fine. It must be on your end, Ponythroat. I mean, the mic is all the way up on my, on my Streamlabs thingy. But yes, the world ends. That might be more literal than you think. And the women are most affected. Again, I'd like to point out that there was a massive controversy about calling Hollywood actresses mid just a couple weeks ago on the Twitters. But you can just dump on men all you want. There is a meme in this thread. Women constantly amaze me, but not in a good way. Well said. Yes, out of curiosity, let's look at the original CNN article here. Yes, people are saying similar things to me. If we were to say it's because there's a shortage of thin women, we would be sexist. Maybe it's because there's a shortage of physically attractive women. Exactly what I said. Or as Chris Rock might have put it, only women, children, and puppies are loved unconditionally. A man must provide something. In a deeply, deeply simple way, this is not entirely wrong. All right, let's check out some comments. We have none. That's wonderful, so we can just move on. So let's see what we got here. Meanwhile, we can go to a... Let's see what's going on in international news. Let's see what's going on in Japan. So, being that Japan is, despite its many flaws, a much more functioning country than the United States. They are, lacking more serious problems to deal with. They are tackling something very serious, the hay fever crisis. So apparently, the municipal government in Tokyo has declared a preposterously impossible target to eliminate 20% of all the cedar trees by 2033 to alleviate hay fever. Now, what exactly is the problem here? Specifically, it's because, if we look at North America, we also have something of a hay fever crisis because city planners, they usually overplant a preponderance of male cedar trees, not female trees. Because I believe cedars are, I guess if there's male and female trees, they got to be conifers, right? Let me look that up as I do a complete digression and pretend like my biology background is worth anything. Let's see. Yes, they are conifers. So yes, they plant a preponderance of male cedars because the female trees tend to drop fruits. The fruits of cedar trees are those little, prickly things, which are, kind of a pain in the ass. You got like cones and the stuff. People don't want giant cones, laying about. But the problem is, you've got all these male trees just spewing their pollen, which is essentially tree jizz everywhere. And it makes people get a bit itchy. So, yeah, congratulations to Japan for having solved all its serious problems and having to deal with this little minor cedar nonsense. Okay. Let's see. Point of says in Chris Rock's case, he should provide a husband who does not commit adultery. Well, the joke is still relevant, so I don't really know about his personal life. C-Punk Messiah says, I don't think fatness is the problem. It's the personality, from what I've come to find. Oh, make no mistake about it, sir. The fatness is a problem. But, yeah, personality, too. I mean, thankfully, my wife, I'm very lucky in that she is neither fat nor bad in personality. But, yes, I've known plenty of women who are both, or they have one or the other thing, which is, that's kind of a deal breaker. But in all respect, I think most men would go for a plump, matronly type, rather than a hot chick who kind of emotionally castrates them. And yes, I have dealt with that as well. Pointy Throat says, is it because the females smell like baby gravy or something? Are you talking about the cedar trees or the women? I don't know. It's just, either way, women are causing problems, whether they be trees or people. Pointy Throat then says, all the fruits in the tree, and he's no longer talking about homophobic countries. Indeed. But yeah, it must be nice to live in a country where serious problems are solved and you can deal with trees and things like that. But we can go back to talking about how shitty America is right now. Actually, let's stick on this whole idea of, fat ladies doing fat people things. Got a couple stories about that, too. So, Philadelphia is having a FatCon, the first convention celebrating obesity. And I quote, some people are not in love with their body every day, but this is the body that they exist in, one of the organizers said. To quote an episode of Seinfeld, a fat man goes, I'm not ashamed of my body. Jerry says, maybe you should be. And let's see, 3 Philadelphia ladies are organizing FatCon, a conference for people with a higher than average body mass index. Okay, let's see. Philadelphia, with its reputation for food items like cheesesteaks, hoagies, scrapple, and roast pork sandwiches, which are all very good, already attracts attention for its contribution to the gastronomical landscape. It is reported that 68% of adults in Philadelphia are overweight or obese, as are 41% of the youth between the ages of 6 and 17. once again, I don't know how anybody could be like obese. I mean, if you got like just like a gut, like I can understand that. You just eat too much and you don't exercise enough. But when these people get to be like 400, 500, 600 pounds, like, and we'll get to that in a little while with another story. Like, I don't understand how you even get there. Like, do you not like? Do you just lay in your couch eating like flan all day? Like, I don't understand. I could try to get. In fact, I'll tell you what. Like I mentioned this before, but when I broke my foot, I was literally just sitting on my ass in my parents' house because I was living with them at the time, on the couch, not moving. And like I got a little tubby, but the heaviest I ever got was like 230, like maybe 240. Like I don't even know how you could get to be like 300, 400, 500, 600 pounds. It's like you gotta try. Okay. Daphne says, "Thank you, my dear husband. Compliments are never in short supply when you are around." Heart emoji. Indeed, you deserve them. Now, I'm sorry to burden the rest of you with this, marital bliss. I will get back to the misery and pain of modern life. C-Punk Messiah says, "My preference lies with bigger women. My primal brain needs the thickness." Well said, sir. But like, that's not fat per se. Like there's thick and then there's fat. Thick is good, fat is not. Ponythroat says Japan loves its bonsai trees. Gonna try to make bonsai mountains too. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Does Japan have like massive strip mining like operations that are like ruining the mountains? And for what it's worth, I think hydraulic mining is pretty much banned, unilaterally across the world. At least last time I checked. As if I know anything about hydraulic mining beyond that old movie "Gold Is Where You Find It." It's amazing. It's stellar. It's a success, and it's good too. Of course, I am referring to the fact that I've never actually seen the movie "Gold Is Where You Find It." I've only seen Daffy Duck's abomination version of "Gold Is Where You Find It" from that one Looney Tunes cartoon. The first YouTube poop ever made, and that was in 1937. Yeah, let's see. 1893, there's the Caminetti Act, which greatly reduced the hydraulic mining. They did it in New Zealand, in Malaysia. Okay, they also do it in South Africa. Okay, so I was wrong. Ape Stankovic says some people can gain weight by being over-medicated and or injured. Well, yes, like I said, I was injured too. But I didn't get that fat. I kind of understand like just not being active and gaining some weight, but like when you're like 500, 600 pounds, like that, is where I kind of don't understand how you can be like that fat. Okay, Ponythroat says plenty of countries in the West have a similar level of people that will be overweight, but America has a monopoly on people so far above that level they have their own undertow. Yep, they're just caught in the undertow. Every second I wait is more than I can take. Again, I mentioned this previously, but there's like a bunch of history Twitter accounts I follow where it's like, they show pictures and videos from like, the old timey days. And it was like, this is a circus fat man from the 1920s. He weighs 450 pounds. You could literally see guys like that just walking around on the street every day. Something terribly wrong has happened with the food. And in the very odd chance that I ever become president of the United States, I will completely overhaul the FDA. Ponythroat says, I think the idea of carrying and nurturing a small mountain to be funny. If you got real good, you can get snow on top. Wouldn't that just be a pile of dirt? But anyway, Let's see. Going back to the fat convention. Okay, it's gonna have panel discussions on fashion, coping with fat phobia, social media influencing, with the keynote speech by a fat sex therapist, and we'll get to more on that in a second. And then, okay, yeah, it's I don't. Again, I'm not saying that fat people should be like locked in cages and pointed and laughed at, but having a having a whole convention that celebrates it seems a bit overdone. I'm going to be almost certain that this is going to be like 98% fat women at this thing, because fat acceptance seems to be mostly the ladies, from what I've seen. But we shall see. We shall see how the fat convention works. I mean, Philadelphia is not that far from me. I might be persuaded to go, but I think I'll be turned away at the door, to be quite honest. But yes, speaking of the heftier people, actually no, this is beyond hefty. This is like really, really fat people. I have another slightly disturbing topic to discuss from Reddit. I don't know if this is a hoax or not, but let's see. And I quote directly, "I am an ER nurse, and I once had a 450 to 500 pound female patient who had a bunch of abrasions on her abdominal panis." I don't know what a panis is. She was in the ER for something else. Let me look that up. A panis is an extra growth in your joints that causes pain. Comes from rheumatoid arthritis. But it's also something that affects dog eyes. Wait. Okay, so I think this is the one they're referring to. Panis stomach occurs when extra skin and fat deposits hanging from the stomach area on the abdomen. Oh, so it's basically the scientific name for the gunt. Okay, great. Good to know. But yes, this fat woman was in the ER for something else, but yeah, she had abrasions on her fupa. The nurse asks the fat woman about it. She nonchalantly answers, "That's from the fuck stick." I responded, "The what?" She says back, "The fuck stick. I'm trying to get pregnant, and our neighbors hold up my stomach with a plank so my husband can get in there." So, in other words, her next door neighbors stand on either side of her, pushing a 2x4 to hoist her giant fupa up and out of the way while her husband does the business. Working as an ER nurse for years has given me a lot of answers in life. This might be a hoax. I'm praying that it's a hoax. Again, I can understand being, a little tubby, but, if you're just a little tubby, like you got a gut because, you enjoy life and you indulge too much, like that, I understand. But when you're literally to the point where you need to use a plank of wood so that, Johnny 2x4 or whatever can, get up in there, you really got to take a step back and realize, something is terribly wrong in my life. Yeah, it's a hell of a thing to read. Okay, let's see what else we got. I think there was another thing that related to this sad state of affairs. Let's see what else we got. Once again, I feel like a lot of problems in the world would be solved if men would just stop sleeping with women that look like that. Like, there's no shame in masturbating, gentlemen. You don't have to. If you're using planks in your sex, you really gotta reassess your life choices at that point. Oh yeah, here's another Reddit post on a similar topic. Her friend was morbidly obese, like my 600-pound life. Her family moved her to the kitchen table, one where you could add or remove the center section. They removed the middle part, they laid her on it. Her mom held one leg, her sister held the other leg, and her husband did his husbandly duty. They did this until she conceived. I just. I could go for a drink right now. Let's check out some comments. Okay. Ponythroat says WhaleCon. Excuse me, sir. I'm sure there is a very vibrant community of whalers and cetologists or cetasolog. What the hell's a person who studies whales? Cetology, yes. Cetologists have their conventions. Don't you dare besmirch the name of the actual whaling conventions. Thank you very much. Ponythroat says the panis is the fupa, also the front butt. Yes. Ponythroat says the use of the word fuckstick tells me that is possibly fake. Much on Reddit is. I don't want to believe it, sir, but my gut's telling me it is. Because, again, there's a lot of men who sleep with very, very fat women. They're called the polyamory community, but I feel like this is too depraved to not be real in at least one case in this terrible, terrible society we live in. Okay. Ponythroat says, no need for a stick. Just do it on all fours. It is possible, sir, that a pair of buttocks might be too big to get into position that way. Ponythroat says, there's no shame in masturbating. Why did I get thrown off the bus then? Well, this is people don't understand the glories of onanism, sir. But, yeah, let me rephrase that. There's no shame in masturbating in private. My wife agrees to Seabung Messiah is saying this is a horrifying turn of events. Yes. Ponythroat also says if your penis is long enough to impregnate women that fat, you could probably get somebody thinner. Well said. But in the case of the, polyandry community, most of the guys there, they really cannot get anybody else. Every polyandrous couple Actually, let me just rephrase that. Every polyamorous couple I've ever seen, or polyamorous group I've ever seen, is just one, mother hen, giant fat woman and a bunch of, little gremlins, taking turns, doing the business with her. Not a great look. Ponythroat also says anthropologists have their own convention called Anthrocon. Yes, they do. Yeah, if you need a plank to have sex, you got problems. And finally, possibly related to this story, the recent series of Taylor Swift concerts have been so big, they've reported seismic activity coming from them, these seismologists. Possibly because there's a lot of fat chicks watching, or maybe there's just a lot of people. I don't know. I'm teaching a Taylor Swift song to one of my music students right now. She's a little girl and she's not fat, so I can't really tell you the average BMI of your average Taylor Swift fan. I don't know. But let's leave horrifying fat people sex behind. Let's go to some comical sex that is so goofy I almost have to applaud. In Ireland, an Irish midget dressed up as a leprechaun, and he tricked over 40 women into having sex with him for a pot of gold. Let me pull up this looker right here. Okay, let me just come on. Yeah, there's going to be a few pictures today. Come on. I mean, to be fair, if anybody ever was a leprechaun, I think this guy would be, to be quite honest. Let me just give me one. It's going to take a little while. Yeah, so unlike the death fats having sex, this is actually something I got to applaud. This Irish gentleman. I mean, I don't know if these are like native, Irish Cayleys or these tourists. I don't know. I'm going to assume they were tourists because I feel like somebody from Ireland wouldn't be taken in by stupid horse shit like that. But like, yeah. Let's see what we got. Yes, can of Coke to you, sir. Take a boo. Okay, let's see. C-Punk Messiah says Chris Fleming did a funny bit about polyamorous couples. Ponythroat says, of course you need a plank to have sex. What else are you going to somersault dive in from? Ponythroat says, it's a fake picture. The mugshot's been going around for years. Somebody just added it later. Oh, that's a shame. I'm going to look to see if that's actually true or not. Just let me look. Let's see. I mean, nobody's saying explicitly that it's fake, but in all honesty, oh shit, it's fake. So apparently, the real story that happened here was that a man in Florida kidnapped 27 people and forced them to play Yahtzee for 36 hours straight, which is almost as good. So yes, my apologies to the good people of Ireland, but either way, it was still a pretty funny story. But hey, it's just like Warwick Davis said in Leprechaun in the Hood. He hasn't been in so long, it's tragic. And he is in the hood and he's come to do no good. Yes, I have seen all the Leprechaun movies for some idiotic reason. They're not good, but I can't resist. I do like Warwick Davis very much. He is a legend. Okay. Moving on from that. Let's see. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get some water since it is very hot here. I'll be back in just a minute. And then we'll get to the... Actually, my wife is going to get me water. Thank you very much. This is why it's good to live with other people. Thank you. But yes, now that we've gotten past the serious stuff, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because I know I was going to talk about maybe politics, but what even happened in American politics this week? I know Mitch McConnell basically had an Alzheimer's attack, and so did Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi. I mean, our government's run by bloodthirsty geriatrics, but what else is new? It's not really news. I mean, that was already a state of being that already existed. So yes, now that we've discussed that, we can, thank you for the water. Yes, we can get to the silly side of things, the popular culture and general insanity news. Okay, Ponythroat says Warwick Davis does not stop other little people from getting jobs, much like Peter Dinklage does, that race trader. Yeah, Peter Dinklage, I know he got very mad at the thought, because I know Disney's doing that Snow White remake, which looks like absolute horseshit. But he was like, how dare you? You can't have dwarves playing dwarves. Yeah, it's like way to pull the ladder up, from your people, Pete. But yes, Warwick Davis does not do that, and I bet Danny Woodburn doesn't do it either. He was Mickey the Midget from Seinfeld. I'm sure he helps out his brethren. Okay, Rick says aliens. Oh yeah. That there was some kind of thing the Congress or some guy was like, yeah, there's been aliens recovered from crafts. It just shows you how jaded the public is that they said that and literally nobody cares. I used to have a meme in my memer where it was the aliens come to Earth and the guy's just hey, he's the Wojak with the baggy eyes smoking a cigarette and he's just hi. And the alien's like, aren't you shocked? And the human's like, look, I'm going through a lot of shit right now. I don't care. Yeah, I think that's where we are as a society. Ponythroat says Warwick Davis was also in Time Bandits, underrated 80s puppet fantasy film. Also, the main Ewok from Return of the Jedi, his full name is Wicket Warwick, named after his portrayer, Warwick Davis. That information can only be found in the Ewoks cartoon show and not in the movie itself. Yeah. Oh, actually, I take that back. There was some pretty interesting archaeology news, which I just remembered. First of all, I mean, it was kind of lighthearted, so I guess I didn't consider it to be important, but it kind of is. Yeah, so first of all, in archaeology news, Otzi the Iceman of the Alps had some DNA analysis done, and they also did analysis of his spear and arrows. Otzi is now thought to have killed between 2 to 4 of his assailants before he himself was killed. And remarkably, despite having an arrow lodged in his shoulder, he dabbed upon his enemies in his final death pose. Yes, he was found basically dabbing uh, in his death throes. Let me pull this bad boy up. Let's see. Right, got a snip. Okay, here we go. Gonna save that. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna. Yeah, just give me a second here. Snipping still takes a lot of time. One might say he iced his enemies. Dad joke. Okay, do that. Yep, so here is the Iceman. He has a remarkably well-preserved pair of buttocks, but beyond that, yes, he dabs on his enemies in his death throes. 'Cause that's what you do when you're bleeding out from injuries. You know, you dab and then you die. Ponythroat says, I used to believe in aliens, but then the government said they were real. Yes, that is also my opinion. Ponythroat says, Larsen finally learned how to use the snipping tool to defeat Jafif. Yes, I sure did. And by learn how to use snipping, I mean I was forced to learn how to snip because Windows updates basically made it so I can't just, print screen and copy and paste anymore. I have to snip. Yeah, these damn whippersnappers nowadays, they don't know what it was like living in the copper age. Also worth pointing out is that he had some pretty noticeable tattoos. Yes, one can only hope that I can die in such a dignified manner. But yeah, speaking of archaeology news, we got some more archaeology news. This might be a couple years old, but I only saw it recently. So, if I am only seeing it recently, therefore it must be recent. Okay. In the forests near Novgorod, Russia, there were discovered a bunch of doodles on birch bark. Birch bark writing was a fairly common method of writing in medieval Russia. What makes these doodles unique is that they were the doodles of a young boy named Onfim. And they are remarkably interesting because they're actually pretty similar to like the doodles that little boys might draw nowadays. Now I'm going to pull that up. We will see that. Okay, let's see. I actually found this very entertaining, this particular story. Okay. I'll pull this up. Okay, Biff Stankovich says Otzi got him. He sure did. Ponythroat says he's dabbing. He got that ink and's got a copper axe. Will be the epitome of the drip in those days. Yes, the Iceman was styling and profiling, one might say. So anyway, here is Onfim's doodle. First of all, you can see that he is a man of culture. He draws rake hands, which a lot of little kids do even nowadays. Now, personally, I always drew like those kind of like, I don't know what you call them, like those kind of like paw hands where it's just like all the fingers are kind of the same, like rounded shapes. It looks like bear paws. That was how I drew hands when I was a little boy, as if I can draw hands even nowadays. I've graduated to Rob Liefeld levels of hand drawing, which is to say I shove them into pockets and like, gloves and mittens whenever I can. I mean, it's also worth pointing out that the one in the center, I presume, is Onfim. He's got like 6 fingers on one hand and 8 fingers on the other hand, but it's the thought that counts. And then his friend there, he's got 3 fingers on each hand. And then also written there is some kind of script. I presume it's like early Cyrillic writing. I can't read that shit. But apparently, see if I can find the translation of that. I cannot. Apparently, I guess it was just like his own name from what I'm reading. But yes, actually, several drawings of him have been found. Most of them had just been kind of transcribed, and they're not the original birch bark. But we will show all those pictures in this stream. Ponythroat says people in those days had an unconventional numbers of fingers. They sure did. I mean, the kid might have been polydactylous. I mean, it's not like they had medical care back in those days. But I'm going to assume that this young boy just didn't know how to draw hands. But there's more pictures. Let's pull this one up. And bear in mind that these pictures are basically, they're from like the Kievan Rus. They're from like 1100, 1200 AD in Russia. And it basically looks like drawings that kids would do nowadays. Okay, so here we go again. Here's another picture of, little man Onfim being a man of culture. So let's see what we got here. So on the top left, we have, looks like somebody yelling at somebody, and this guy's eyes are like bugging out. Okay. And then we have some very crappily drawn horses. Yeah, sorry, like the horses are not good. And, some like knights swinging swords, shooting arrows, riding horses. And in one of them, he wrote his own name. Archaeologists posit, could these knights be Onfim and his friends going on great adventures? Okay. Then there's another picture here of Onfim being a knight. And we know this is him because he wrote his name on it. So let me just pull this one up. Wait, now I've got to snip it. So this Twitter thread came from a Butzer Ancient Farm, which is a Neolithic archaeological site in the UK. But they were talking about this Russian site, which, the brethren of archaeology is always there. The brotherhood of archaeology, I should say. Let's see. Anyway, I want to know what's going on in that top left picture because it doesn't look good. Looks like some shenanigans are going on. Okay, got another picture. Let's just reduce this one. Yeah, so here we have, again, this is very clearly on film. He named himself in the picture, and he is stabbing the shit out of somebody with a lance while he's riding his horse. Just like today, a little boy imagines himself being a brave knight or a pirate or some kind of cool guy. And I gotta say, his handwriting is about as good as my handwriting would have been back in those days when I was a child. Personally, I think that I was a better artist even back then, but nonetheless, I respect the man, the boy, I should say. And then finally, there's one more birch bark scrap that we can find. It's like it's homework. He was practicing the alphabet in whatever archaic script this is, and he was doing his homework. But then there's also a picture, which I will pull up right now. Okay. So while I pull this up, let me just say that while this is sort of mundane, in a sense, it's just average people doing average people shit. This is certainly much more interesting than the usual archaeology stuff, where they're like, we need to have pot charts. We can't have anything cool. This is actually something cool, and this actually might get people interested in archaeology, and heaven forbid that happen, because bad people will get interested in it. So yes, here is on the left, Onfim does his homework. On the right, he writes, "Hello, Daniel," from Onfim. He also says, "I am a wild beast." Then he draws whatever the hell that thing is. I assume that's him trying to draw some kind of dragon or something. Not very good. But, points for trying. Biff Slankovich says, "The farming community of Ohala was discovered in the Sea of Galilee, which goes back 23,000 years. Very cool." Ponythroat also says, "My full hood drawing made a lot of use of the red pencil. I presume you were drawing blood and thunder." Yes, we all drew very fun things when we were children. And then, of course, in this thread, the goddamn schoolmarms who have to cut the balls off of everything had to say the absolute stupidest shit you could imagine about these pictures. Academic Resisted says, "I noticed that one drawing of knights has what looks like dead people on the ground. Do you think this is something that he saw and it's working through his trauma, or is it just a child's imagination?" No, idiot. He's a little boy and he's dreaming about being a brave knight and going on adventures. Like, my God, like how... Hey guys, let's just ignore the tombs and treasures. Let's just focus on pottery shards for the next million years. God, these people, like you want to know why nobody wants to learn? Because you people suck all the fun out of like academics and learning and history and the arts. People like this. So I can't. He's got to be working through the trauma. He couldn't possibly be just a little boy filled with the nursery dreams of boyhood and adventure, the Brandywine dreams, shall I say? Like, and this person, their Twitter profile says, "I'm a mother of 2 boys, 2 dogs, and 2 cats." I don't know what kind of boys you're raising, but this is like the exact kind of things I would have been drawing when I was a kid. I was drawing like adventures and like, fighter planes and stuff like that. I mean, okay, granted, when I was a little boy, I had, I was reading like, comic books and like watching movies and playing video games to inspire my drawings. This kid was, I don't know, he was watching like puppet shows and listening to stories of, Alexander Nevsky or whatever. But either way, like, A little boy's nursery dreams of glory are nurtured by the stories we read. And then, literally, like, in the thread, someone else says, when I was a little kid, we had to write letters to the soldiers, Iraq, and we would draw these pictures of, like, soldiers killing terrorists with, like, American flags in the background. And then, literally, in that thread, there's a picture of a young boy drawing such a thing. God, I hate academics sometimes. Like, I'm going to pull that up right now. Like, here's, like, little Jeremy, age 5, drawing a picture saying, I hope you kill a lot of people in the war. Well said, my boy. Now, obviously, when you get older, you should understand that, war is a terrible thing and you should not celebrate killing people. But this is what boys do. I know we're trying to, like, beat that urge out of them. But this is what boys are going to do. Ask anybody who collects vintage toys. It's much easier to find little girls' toys, speaking of Barbie, than little boys' toys, because little boys, smash things and, like, ruin everything. Wow, I hate people sometimes. And then, of course, the thread is also full of people going like, well, actually, knights spend all their times, like, just shitting themselves and, like, staggering around and getting sick and dying. Because, God forbid anything cool ever happened in history. Actually, like, nothing good happened before 1965. Can we, like, shut academics up for a few years before we, like, get a grip on the situation? C-Punk Messiah says, he was a boy, he liked Zelda and Star Fox, and influenced his love of epic adventure and heroism and Anthros. Yeah, like, again, when I was a kid, I was playing Zelda and Final Fantasy and, like, Chrono Trigger and all those kind of games, and I was drawing pictures of, like, brave warriors riding horses and swinging swords, just like little Onfim did. Ponythroat says, I drew people getting eaten by dragons all the time. I never saw that shit in real life. I mean, unless you live in Indonesia, you might see that, but never mind that. I just find it very hard that somebody who's allegedly a mother of 2 boys doesn't understand that this is the sort of thing that boys might draw. Yeah, like, literally, like, in, kindergarten, first grade, I was drawing, like, pictures of, knights and soldiers and things like that and fighter planes. And it's slowly starting to sink into me that if I were doing that nowadays, I'd probably have been sent to a therapist. Well, thank God I lived in the 90s, the last years where America was still somewhat sane as a country. But anyway, that's enough archaeology for now. Now we're going to talk about pop culture, and it sucks. So, yes, as I said, Barbie and Oppenheimer are cleaning house in the theaters. And of course, as usual, Hollywood has taken the completely incorrect interpretation of how to, react to this. Clearly, the message that you should have taken from the success of the Barbie movie is that even the most, frivolous and inane subject matter can be made good with talented actors and directors and writers. That is the lesson they should have gotten. But instead, the lesson they took was that we need to make more movies about toys and other childhood IPs. Mattel is literally going into the Mattel Cinematic Universe. And yes, they've already greenlit a Polly Pocket movie starring Lily Collins from Emily in Paris and directed by Lena Dunham. Yeah, that's going to be great. Not only that, apparently there's going to be, like, an Uno movie. There's going to be, like, Well, yeah, I already mentioned there's gonna be like a Hot Wheels movie. Let me look up what other piles of horse shit we're gonna post. Okay, yeah, so Polly Pocket, Hot Wheels, Magic 8 Balls, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, Uno, uh, Matchbox Cars. They're gonna do another Masters of the Universe movie. Great way to take the completely incorrect lesson from the success of your Barbie movie, guys. I'm gonna say this again. They're gonna make Uno cards into a movie. Like, how in the blue hell is that gonna? Like, my wife's laughing. Like, I mean, is it good? Wait, I know how you could do it. Okay, so it could be like a family plays Uno, and their familial love and bonding for each other slowly goes to shit as they play Uno, and then by the end of the movie, they're literally beating each other with baseball bats. It's a domestic drama around Uno cards. I got it. Damn, I'm good. Okay, Magic 8 Ball, like that could be like Final Destination. It's like a horror movie about the Magic 8 Ball that predicts people's futures and it just kills them in messy ways. I mean, what are they gonna do next? They're gonna do like Slinkies, the movie. Like, and yeah, somebody said that like in uh in the thread, the Uno movie is just 90 minutes of people fighting about the rules of Uno. Which is also coincidentally how I would do a Mario Kart movie, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, Rock Sock'em Robots. I mean, didn't they already do that with Real Steel? Okay. Viewmaster, like slides they put in front of your eyes. Okay, I keep saying this and I keep saying this, but yes, we are incredibly corrupt, like bankrupt creatively. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Slinky movie myself. Okay, let's see. Pony Throat, referring to that academic woman who does understand that boys like to draw knights and warriors. She's raising her kids to be gender neutral, but they get the belt and they do anything masculine. Yes, that's kind of what I'm imagining. Or maybe she forced her daughters to be trans boys, but they're still girls on the inside. My wife asks, "Why is this happening?" I don't know. It's because everybody's so goddamn creatively bankrupt. Like they can't come up with any original ideas anymore. Like, yeah, I'm just saying, like back in the day, like there was things that were adapted into film, but it was like books and like the Bible and history and stuff. It wasn't Polly Pockets and Uno. Pony Throat says it worked out great for the Battleship movie. Yes, how can we forget the Battleship movie? I mean, what? Okay, I will say that like Clue was actually like might actually be the only good like board game based movie that exists. Uh, Although I will say that like Monopoly might be a good movie if you made it into like a hard hitting drama about like the rise and fall of a business tycoon. Like basically my Monopoly movie would be basically like a slightly more law abiding version of Scarface. That might work. Anyway, Shinseki Evans says Hasbro made the same mistake when Transformers was a big hit. They thought they could make movies out of all their toys and games. They were wrong. Yes, yes, they were. But again, like the Monopoly movie could also be again just a domestic drama about a family playing Monopoly and going into like violent rage over the rules. Like, what the fuck is free parking, Marianne? Okay, Ponythroat says the wife is slapping the husband knowing that he can't fight back, but then he pulled the reverse card. Punk Messiah says, I'm going to be hyped when the Connects movie comes out. I mean, personally, I'm waiting for the Erector Set movie myself. Ponythroat says he's waiting on a Bionicle movie. Big Slankovich says Bucky O'Hare by Hasbro. I don't even know who the hell has that license anymore. I mean, it was Continuity Comics was the comic book publisher. That was Larry Hama. I think it might be Larry Hama, who still has the right to that. He was the original writer. Now I have to, can't believe I'm looking up Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars at 10 in the morning. Bucky O'Hare, the Green Space Rabbit, is not to be confused with Jaxon, the Green Space Rabbit from the Star Wars comic books. And neither of those guys are to be confused with Blackjack O'Hare, the archenemy of Rocket Raccoon, who's a turquoise space rabbit. I don't know why there were so many green space rabbits in the 80s, but by God, there were. Okay, let's see. Yes, Hasbro did the action figures for Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars. The annotation station on YouTube did a pretty funny riffing of the whole cartoon show, which is just 13 episodes. Unfortunately, it's been taken down, which is a shame. Okay, Ponythroat says, what about Jazz Jackrabbit? Yes. The fourth green space rabbit. Again, why were there so many goddamn space rabbits? Okay. Ponythroat says, I only know Bucky O'Hare from his arcade game. Yeah, it was, short-lived, funny animal show written by Larry Hama, an actual Vietnam War veteran. So he actually put a bit more, grit into it than your average, funny animal comic. You know, it had a comic book that lasted about a year or so. You got a cartoon show, which, according to Larry Hama, they really messed up the action figure distribution. So that's why it didn't sell as big as it should have. And he's still bitter about it if you ask him on Twitter. But again, I don't blame him, considering that, if it had been like a Ninja Turtles-esque success, he would have literally been a multi-millionaire. And then, there was the two video games, which are actually pretty good. There was an NES one and an arcade one. The arcade one is sort of the default ending of the series. But never mind that. And then Ponythroat mentions Usagi Yojimbo. He's not green. Yes, he's a white space rabbit. Stan Sakai is a very good comic artist, and so is Larry Hama. Yeah, Larry Hama, of course, was always put to do, military comics due to his own military experience. He did Marvel's G.I. Joe. He did, Nick Fury and the Commandos. But he always said he always wanted to do, he always wanted to work for Disney and do Scrooge McDuck comics. But, the irony when he ends up getting a chance to do a funny animal comic, but it's still a military thing. Well, at least he's got steady work. He got typecast into one very specific thing, but hey, he's doing well for himself, old Larry. Okay, Ponythroat says, imagine an adult being enamored with a Hasbro property for little girls. Shameful. Yes, okay. Big Slankovich asked, referring to Bucky O'Hare, who's the dog with the eye patch. That would be Commander Dogstar. He talked like Jim Backus. Okay, let's get off this idiotic topic. But yeah, speaking of the, as we know, there's the big writers' strike in Hollywood. And let's talk a little bit about that, because it does kind of relate to this whole IP thing. I presume that the lack of writers is because I want to say the writers going on strike is why they're greenlighting all this IP crap, but let's be honest. The writers are the ones who are doing this because, if guys like Adam Conover and Mindy Kaling and Phoebe Waller-Bridge are any indication, these people don't have any ideas besides, either adapting children's IPs or cutting the nuts off of, classical heroes that we've grown to love over the decades. Anyway, yeah, here's some movies that we lost because of the writer's strikes. Here we go. I'm gonna just read off the ones that are like IPs. There's a few that like I don't recognize. I presume those might be shock and awe, original ideas. Um, okay, let's see. Avatar 3 and 4, Beetlejuice 2, The Conjuring Last Rites, another Fantastic Four movie, Gladiator 2. I presume Gladiator 2 is that idea where it's like Maximus goes to like Hades and he ends up fighting in every war throughout human history. Like that's so idiotic. I might actually enjoy it. Anyway, yeah, live action Lilo and Stitch remake, live action Moana remake, Minecraft the movie, Mortal Kombat 2 with Cole Young, a prequel to The Lion King, Paddington 3, uh, Untitled Dirty Dancing sequel, Untitled Fast and the Furious sequel, Untitled Bad Boys sequel, Untitled sequel to Venom. Wow, it sure is a shame we lost all that cinematic magnificence. I say, dripping with sarcasm. Okay, Biff Slankovich says, I watch Leave It to Beaver reruns while on the treadmill. They're a hoot. Yes, Eddie Haskell has one of the greatest ratios of entertainment to screen time in television history. And now that you mentioned Leave It to Beaver, I'm going to have to watch that bit from The Simpsons where Homer is Mr. Plow and he gets called up by, the repo man. He's like, oh, you want Mr. Plow? I'm sorry, this is Tony Plow, the brother from Leave It to Beaver. Gibberish on the phone. And Homer goes, yeah, they were gay. And he just hangs up the phone. Like, I'm sorry, that always makes me laugh. Ponythroat says, we lost Avatar 3. How do we know the writer's strike will be going on in 15 years? I don't know. I mean, I honestly feel like they're going to start using like Chat GPT and like AI writing to just write up scripts because it can't be any worse than the dog shit they're writing nowadays. But yeah, just, God forbid we lost Minecraft the movie. Like, how do you even make Minecraft into a movie? I'm honestly like celebrating this because, like, come on, the writers in Hollywood today, it's not like Orson Welles and like Dalton Trumbo and Elia Kazan and like Howard Hawks are the guys in Hollywood nowadays. It's these weak little dweebs who are just writing absolute crap. Okay, there was a SAG-AFTRA rally in which Bryan Cranston slammed the use of AI. We will not have our jobs taken away and given to robots. Yeah, you will, Brian. Look, I'm sorry. I like Bryan Cranston a lot. He's a good actor. I like Breaking Bad. I like Malcolm in the Middle. I like, he's been in a lot of stuff. I like him as Mr. Watley, the dentist from Seinfeld. But I'm sorry, like, if automation is going to happen to me, it's going to happen to you, okay? I mean, either write better scripts and do better movies or get ready for AI. Maybe this is how, the INGSOC government, like, enabled the prol feed to, overtake the nation. They just had like 20 years of absolute horseshit coming out of the media, and then people just gave up their freedom just because they were tired of it. That might actually be the case. Okay. Ponythroat says Minecraft the movie was in discussion 10 years ago. The peak popularity of Minecraft was in 2013. Really striking while the iron is frozen. Yep. Hey, I mean, it's like they're doing that Twisted Metal show. Because again, I think it's just because they realize that the games nowadays, they literally have no stories at all. Like, they don't make any, like, not to say that video games had great stories back in the day, but they had a story. And now there's, like, nothing. So that's why they're making, like, Twisted Metal into a show. That's why they're doing, like, Sonic and Mario. And, there's the persistent rumors of the Zelda movie, which I don't think would be good unless... So, I discussed this before, but, like, Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, was adamant for years that he would not allow anybody to do a Lord of the Rings movie because he was afraid that like it was going to be some goofy fantasy bullshit and wouldn't take it seriously. And it wasn't until decades later that Peter Jackson took it seriously and gave it the respect it deserved. And I feel that's what should be done with the Zelda movie if it would ever be made. Again, I feel like it would be better as a television show. It should be taken seriously like Lord of the Rings, instead of making it this fantasy stupid shit. But thankfully, that was not on the list of suspended production, so I don't think that's happening. But yeah, it's like video games today have no stories at all, so they got to go to the old games. And yeah, speaking of that, related to that, Call of Duty continues its decline into utter irrelevancy because Call of Duty now has like humanoid cats and Homelander from The Boys. Okay, first of all, you are aware Homelander is one of the villains, right? Secondly, why the hell does Call of Duty have humanoid cats and superheroes? I mean, I say this as somebody who, like, I loved to play Call of Duty Finest Hour on the GameCube back in the early 2000s. I mean, if you put a gun to my head, I could still probably do, like, the opening monologue from the Battle of Stalingrad, like, from memory. If I had to. Like, that's how powerful that was. You know why? Because that's real history, and Call of Duty used to actually be historically accurate and put you into the shoes of real soldiers, and now it's just like this stupid shit. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's just like Fortnite. Like, Fortnite's got like all these like superheroes and like the Dragon Ball Z and like why? It doesn't make any sense. Like, you can create a fantasy work, but it's like you got to have some kind of verisimilitude. You got to have some kind of consistency. Again, to like go back to like The Legend of Zelda. What if you just pulled up a goddamn motorcycle in the game? Like that doesn't make any sense. What if you're playing I don't know, Grand Theft Auto and like people just got superpowers? Like what if I don't know, like what if you're playing Super Mario Brothers and you just pulled out a shotgun? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like, do we not know how to tell basic narratives anymore? Okay, Ponythroat says the 70s Lort movie, he means Lord of the Rings. It took itself seriously. Yes, it did. They should not have tried to roll two movies into one film. Well, that was the studio's insistence. Bakshi, obviously understood the book and he knew that such a thing would not work. Ponythroat says this is referring to COD Warzone, a microtransaction-filled Fortnite clone. It is an exclusively multiplayer game, so wacky shit ain't that out of place. I guess, but still, it just seems like something was lost when, you went from a Call of Duty game that, was epic and actually made you feel emotions, as like the Russian peasant conscript thrust into the biggest battle in human history. And now it's just like, this is stupid shit. Ponythroat says, not that any live service game can have much verisimilitude. Yes, true. And now I slowly just sink into a depression as I realize that probably like the shitlibs are going to win and they eventually will get their wish of a Legend of Zelda game where Link is a transsexual. That makes me very sad. I mean, I'm going to fight as much as I can to prevent that from happening. But it's probably going to happen at some point. Anyway, all of this talk about video games being nonsense is probably why the kids are apparently abandoning football and soccer for gentle, non-binary sports like hobby horsing, in which I see a video here of a very fruity looking person of ambiguous gender prancing about with a stick horse. The thread that I'm reading says, we used to have a word for this. It was gay. I don't think there's anything... I'm not going to assume anybody's sexual identity, but yeah, you look like an asshole prancing around with your little stick horse. I mean, I'm personally of the opinion that children should be made to like, learn some kind of martial art, like, wrestling or jujitsu from the time they are a child. I mean, yes, I would like to see a world where every American child learns mixed martial arts. I mean, I think MMA is its own unique discipline at this point, and that is a distinctly American martial discipline, just like scholastic wrestling. But no, we're just going to prance around with our little stick horses instead. Okay, let's see. You know what I think this is? This is all a result of those damn Quidditch leagues they had in college. It's. mm. I mean, they've tried this. They tried this back in the 70s. There's nothing new under the sun. They tried to do gentle, like non-gendered sports. I did a whole video on that with Earthball. It ended up being like a bunch of meatheads. Basically, it started knocking people around, and they basically reinvented medieval football. Like, I'm sure somebody will make like, look, like the first chance you get some like, big burly dude bros playing, hobby horses. It's gonna be like an absolute bloodbath. I can see it now. Like, you know, Brick McDick, gets on his hobby horse and just runs over like, little noodle soy boy. And then they just start jousting with like sticks. This is what happens when you ban dodgeball in school. Ponythroat says, I remember when Call of Duty was serious and historical, especially the zombie survival mode. Well, the one I played didn't have that nonsense. Call of Duty Finest Hour on it was on the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox. That was like that. It was actually like really historically accurate. Sipong Masai says, if kids were taught Kyokushinkai, kids would be better off. I want to know about that. I mean, I feel like kids maybe shouldn't be like punching each other in the face, but yeah, I definitely think kids should know like wrestling, some kind of grappling. Well, actually, like I guess. Well, then again, Kyokushin doesn't have like face punching specifically. Yeah, I guess like once a week, kids can do like hard touch sparring, and then the other days they just do like drilling and such. Ponythroat says teach children rugby, the British version of American football, where you walk away paralyzed from the neck down. Yeah, we could do that. I mean, American football used to not have pads, but then too many people died during the early like 1900s. And yeah, America is still the reigning champion of Olympic rugby because it has been contested since 1932, where we won the gold. All right, so that does it for my prepared remarks. And we can move on. My wife says at least rugby teaches its players something. Well, yeah, I mean, full contact sports are a good thing within reason. There's nothing wrong with rugby. I like rugby just fine. I don't understand. Speaking of rugby derivations, I don't know why Australian rules football requires the men to wear little tiny shorts, but that's a whole different issue. Shinseki Evans says, I feel like physical fitness is more important than sports with kids today, teaching them how to use a gym. I don't see why you couldn't do both. Like, I don't see why kids couldn't have gym class, every day in school, 2 days out of the week. They do like, hard, like Sierra, La Sierra program, calisthenics and like free movement training. Then the other days they play sports. I mean, gym class is very important. Also, healthy food is important. I keep hammering this point, but there was a time in this country where, teenage boys look like Navy SEALs and teenage girls look like nymphs of Arcady dancing about the trees. And that was a glorious time. And I wish that America could return to that. Ponythroat says the Virgin UK invented the world's most popular sport and they suck at it, versus the Chad America inventing a sport that nobody cares about, so they always be the champions. Yes, that is true. I mean, to be fair, America did invent a couple of sports that people actually like around the world. Basketball, mixed martial arts. So, America has been good at those pretty consistently throughout the years. But yeah, nobody cares about American football or baseball besides, well, actually now some people care, some people like baseball. Daphne says, our town is a free gym with instructors for the kids and nobody makes use of it. Kids don't want to learn anything new, such as something physical. They just want to sit on their phones all day. Yes, very true. Now, I don't know how to trigger that thumotic spark in the children. Because, I use the internet a lot, but I'm using it to, I get the, fitness stuff and I get, music stuff from it. I'm not just learning how to do little TikTok dances and, dancing about like an asshole. You can say your last pieces. I'm going to take these headphones off because I am pouring sweat. Okay, doesn't look like anybody has anything else to say. So, for Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.